agenda that has been distributed, and that is that the Career Academy report will go first before the superintendent's report. But otherwise, we will proceed as the agenda has laid out for us. But first, I want to recognize all of our visitors here today. Thank you so much for the Career Academy Board being with us.
Absolutely, thank you
We're
for
honored
having us.
to have you here, and thank you for all the guests who are here for our meeting as well. And yes, there are refreshments over there. This is from the kitchen here, right?
It's from the Career Academy,
Career
yes.
Academy.
So we come with refreshments.
Questions
Anytime.
questions are often. Thank you so much. So with those notes, we will go ahead and start our meeting with the presentation from the Community Career Academy.
Alrighty, well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you. That's pretty good. My name is Lawrence Harris. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Athens Community Career Academy. I want to thank you all for meeting with us today and for inviting my board, our governance board, here to meet with you all. Today, we're going to talk a bit about where Career Academy is, where we're looking to go. And so this is just a really kind of an informational presentation. Feel free to stop me along the way if you have any questions, or if I talk really fast. I've been told I can talk really fast, so I'll try to keep it slow. This is an update from, I believe we had the opportunity to meet about a year ago. And so it's just really just to talk about where we are today. And so just as a reminder, our Career Academy is really here to train our students to meet our local and regional workforce needs. And so with that, I think it's important that we know what the legal definition is as the state of Georgia defines a Career Academy. Oh, everybody's copies of the PowerPoint. That's handy. So you can follow along. So the way that the state recognizes career academies, there are now 41 career academies in the state of Georgia who are recognized by the State Department of Education. And we are basically a specialized charter school that's established with a partnership. Our partnerships include industry, community members, and post-secondary institutions, and with the goal of making sure that our local and regional area businesses have the pipeline of talent that they need to be successful. So I thought it was really important to say what we are and what we're not. We are a program, which means we're not a school. And so I think that's one of the first things to know is that we're not a school. Students do not graduate from the Career Academy. They come into our program, they earn credentials, they earn credits that they take back to Clark Central, Cedar Shoals, or Classic City High School, and they graduate from their high school. One thing that we do is we do align high school on the job post-secondary training. So one of the big things we do is make sure that we're offering programs that are meeting our local needs. So we wouldn't offer a program in I can't even think on the top of my head. We want to offer a program that we don't see industry here present in Athens as a need. We combine college prep coursework and technical coursework. And so we make sure that the students are in healthcare, they're in engineering, they're in cosmetology, they're in these programs that are going to lead to a thriving workforce. And one of the big things for us is we have to partner with our local employers. So our board members who are here today, who I'll introduce in a moment, all come from business and industry or post-secondary or for a higher education institution. And we have a very intentional focus on workforce and economic development. So we work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce, the Department of Labor, Athens Technical College, the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission. And so we really work really hard to look at what data is happening, what new businesses are coming to town, where should we be training our students? And so if a business is leaving town, then we have to readjust as a board and say, maybe we don't need to offer this program anymore because Foxborough is leaving. So maybe we don't need to train students to go into those type of jobs. Again, what we're not the free college credit program. That's something that since I've been here as CEO, going to my 4th year, it's kind of something you hear is that, oh, it's a free college credit program. That's not what we're about. I think of it as like the cherry on top. Yes, you can come and earn free core academic credit, but that's not what our mission is. Our mission is making sure that we're meeting those workforce needs. And we're not in competition with CTE. We actually have CTE teachers here. One of our healthcare science teachers right now is having her advisory meeting right there in the back with professionals from several of the hospitals and hospice organizations, and they really help to support those programs. So we're not in competition with CTE. We help to kind of marry our program to what CTE is doing. And so I just want to show a graphic about how exactly we work with workforce development. So one of the first things we do is we look at data. Data is really important, data-driven decision-making. So where's our workforce at? Where's it going? We talk to employers such as Caterpillar, Eaton, Power Partners. We work closely with Georgia Power, and we say, well, where are you? Where are you seeing your talent pipeline drop off? Why are our students or your employees not staying employed? Some of our manufacturers talk about how they have to go outside of Clark County to hire for talent because they can't find the talent here in Clark County. So we want to fix that. We want to make sure that our students have the skills they need to succeed. And so we take those data-driven decisions and we look at which programs align with that. And so right now it's really exciting because our area manufacturers are actually building a brand new manufacturing program for our Career Academy. We had mechatronics since we opened when Caterpillar came to town. Part of their reason for relocating, they mentioned, was because we had a Career Academy. And so they started with mechatronics, and mechatronics was exciting, but now that's not what they need. They don't need those robotics areas. I mean, they don't need mechatronics, they need robotics, they need welders. And so right now they're developing a whole new program based off their workforce need. From there, we kind of talk back and forth. We see if we can partner with Athens Technical College to get some programs going, and then we could offer work-based learning.
Lawrence, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, please.
Back to that previous slide, what sort of a time frame does that take?
It takes time. The manufacturer, it does. So for instance, the manufacturers, the launch date is fall 2020. So it's going to take about, right now we've been developing that curriculum for about 7 months. And it's probably another 4 to 5 months before we even get to the point of saying, like, because we have Caterpillar, Carrier, Eaton, Power Partners, and Certainty all trying to come together to develop one program. And so they all have different needs. And so how do we marry those into different courses? So it takes about 1.5 years, 2 years. It's not we're not until just do a quick turnaround. Like, oh, let's offer manufacturing, do it. Let's do it right. And so that takes time. Our hospitality pathway, so Chef Stone and his students help to prepare from the SAC SAIL from our culinary arts department. As we start looking at hospitality, and Paul Kramer with the class attenders on our board, we know we want to offer a hospitality management program because we see a lot of hotels are coming into town. There's a high need for hospitality, a huge industry in Athens. But we're not just going to just kick something off and just hope it thrives. We want to build it the right way. So it takes about a year to 2 to start something. Good question. Since I was going to skip over it, but I just want to show you, these are the tenets that our whole program operates by. Students, if you ask any of our students, almost 80% of them by now should know it by heart. All of the staff know it by heart. And it's the tenets of SEAL. And so we believe every student who comes here will leave with service, employability, skills, academic excellence, and leadership. And so we reward students as we see these behaviors kind of around the building. And they really love the idea of it. We actually have a little baby seal that we kind of pass around the building. I think our accounting students have it right now because they won the last competition. So I want to pause for a moment and introduce the members of my board. I'm really excited for the members who were able to make it. Some of our members weren't able to make it tonight, but we do have, you want me to introduce you, or do you want to? I'll let you introduce yourself.
Christy Terrell, Georgia Power. I'm CJ Anderson with the Foundation for Excellence.
Georgia Mayor and Chief Magistrate, co-deputy member.
James Price, Vice President for Academic Affairs at Athens Technical College.
And so we have, as you see on the board, we have members from different industries, different areas, and different parts of the community. And that's a really important part of our board, is we want to make sure we have different industries represented, because these are the folks who make the decisions about what programs we offer here, what strategic direction we go in, and ultimately where we end up. Just to kind of show you all staffing, I do want to highlight and say I appreciate the questions from the board prior to this, because it's allowed me to craft my presentation based off questions you all may want to answer. And so this is what the staffing at the Career Academy currently looks like. If you see on the left, these are my folks, my team. We work employed by the Clark County School District. And on the right, you see the courses that are taught by Athens Technical College's adjunct faculty. And so I just want to show this, since that was one of the questions, of who teaches which classes. So admissions and enrollment. In order to be admitted to the Career Academy, main thing is you have to have a 2.0 GPA. That's the first thing. You have to have a 2.0. That's whether you're trying to go to college level courses or high school level courses. You also have to be on track for high school graduation, meaning you can't be more than 2 credits deficient. We would love to serve all students. We also recognize that some students need to stay in certain classes so they can be on track for graduation. But if you want to be admitted for college level courses, you do have to take a placement test, which many of you may know about. You have to take an AccuPlacer, SAT, or ACC exam, or if you are a rising senior, so if you're currently a junior, you can have a HOPE GPA of 2.6. This was a recent change voted on by the technical college presidents this summer. They voted to allow dual enrollment students to be admitted to the technical college system of Georgia with a 2.6 HOPE GPA. This now opens more opportunities for students where they don't have to take a placement test to be admitted, but if you show that you're proficient and you have the academic prowess in 11th or 12th grade and a 2.6 GPA, they believe that you can succeed in college. And so they looked at the data and they found that students who had that GPA were successful in the dual enrollment courses, and so all the presidents voted to allow that as a change to the college. So that change happened on the college level, but now affects us as a career academy, so we can open our doors to those students now as well. So I think this year we have about 14 students that we accepted in July conditionally based off of the 2.6. So it really opened up the doors for a lot of students. Any questions with that? I'm just zooming through. So data trends. I just want to show you where our applications are. Last year was our highest amount of students we've ever had apply for a career academy. There's Paul Kramer. He's also on our board. It's okay, Paul, slide on in. This was the highest year for applications for us. We topped almost 650 applicants. And so we have students who have to apply. And then before this change for the 2.6 GPA, students were having to test still to be admitted. And so you can kind of see we had some attrition from the applicants who actually requested courses in the spring based off their eligibility, and then down to who actually enrolled this fall. And so I just showed you kind of a 3-year trend data to show you how kind of really tight and close-knit it was for the past 2 years. And this past summer, we saw a really large spike in the amount of our applicants, but we didn't see high kind of retention from those who actually requested the courses and enrolled. Reasons for that include things from advisement to needing certain courses for graduation. We changed a bit of our admissions process and our policies for students, and so really getting a better understanding of kind of where we're going and where we're shifting kind of affected that enrollment side. Also, what you see then is that for our enrollment, our kids for the most part, so this is when we first opened. I wasn't here during these first couple of years, but we started out pretty small, 29 students. I'm actually always curious and wonder what that looked like to have 29 students in the building. And we've gradually just kind of grown over the years. This was the first year I started when we had 133, and then we kind of grew to 289, 267. And as I mentioned, this year we dropped off to right about 216. That was based off of, again, we make changes in the program and students are having to understand, okay, so I can't take all the core academic college courses. You want me to focus on career courses. There's some attrition there. One of the good things though is when we look at our pathway data, we see that we actually did not drop in our pathways. Actually, we increased our pathways, and the enrollment in our pathways actually increased. And so I think this focus on being really intentional about career classes and make sure students are saying, what career are you interested in? We're doing really good advisement. We're doing career interest inventory exams. And then we're making sure that students actually know, okay, if you want to go to early childhood, what does that mean? We partner with we have some students at the Early Learning Center. We have students at several daycares in town. And so students are now connecting the dot between, okay, if I do this class, I can go out here and intern there, which means in the future I can be a teacher. And so we're really trying to do a better job of just being intentional about where students go. I'm gonna pause it. Wait time. All righty, so credits and certifications. People always ask, so what do students get from coming here? Like, what do you earn? Like, you're taking classes. So students who successfully complete any of our high school CTE courses have the opportunity to sit for the end of pathway assessment. That's statewide, it's actually nationwide. The end of pathway assessment basically shows that you're proficient in that area, so you can earn a credential in culinary arts, healthcare. Our agriculture science, graphic design classes at Clark Central and Cedar all take EOPAs. And so students who are in those high school courses can earn that credential. For us though, we also add the piece that if you take the college level courses, you can earn a technical certificate of credit. And so that technical certificate of credit shows proficiency in that basic kind of style around those classes such as accounting, engineering. And so you can take that with you to work and say, I've taken college classes, here's my certificate from the college, showing that I have kind of the basic foundational knowledge that's needed to be employed. One thing is all of our core academic classes do transfer. Again, I know I said that's the cherry on top. So that is something that students do earn since they are working hard to earn those credits and that prowess. They do actually transfer to any university system, college or technical college system. And then for our healthcare students, it's really exciting that this is the first year we're offering a CNA licensure. And so that's really big for our students because they can get the high school in the pathway credential. But this CNA is what our hospitals, our hospice, healthcare facilities, there's about probably 8 or 9 people in the back hallway right now in the healthcare science lab, and they've been advising us on what they hire for. They don't hire for the in the pathway assessment, but they will hire this. They said, check Indeed, you'll see 20 pages of jobs right here in Athens for people who have a CNA licensure. So we're gonna offer this to 20 students every year. This is our first year doing it. And so again, the idea is how do we get our students what they need to be successful and get to work. Lastly, our co-land students, they earn well more than the ServSafe certification. They earn the OK Career Tech certification. They earn the National Chef Board certification. So Chef Manny does a really good job making sure his students have all of the credentials they'll need to go work at the National or at the Classic Center around town. So it's really exciting to see how these students come in here and earn credentials. You may have noticed on our wall, our student leader last year, he graduated with 49 college credits in culinary arts. And so I like him because he was very mission focused based off our mission. It wasn't about the math, English, science. He knew he liked cooking. He knew he wanted that experience, trying to figure out where he wanted to go. He did the Hospitality Career Academy with the Classic Center. He graduated from us in May. He went on to Athens Tech, finished in the fall, graduated in August from Athens Tech. And then now he's at Johnson & Wales on a scholarship where he has a year and a half left now his bachelor's. And so he has his bachelor's before he's 19 years old. And so he did that by coming through here, being very focused on I want culinary arts, doing the Hospitality Academy through the Classic Center, interning at the Ritz-Carlton, I believe where you all go, the Ritz-Carlton in the Coney River Lakeside area. But those are the type of stories that really drive down to what we're doing here. It's not about the math, English, science, social studies. Those are great. We love those. They get cherry on top of. But we can get those students to go through those programs and leave and say, this is my career. This is where I want to go. Thank you for helping me find that pathway that we've met our mark.
No, can I ask you another question?
Yes.
I have a small question and a bigger question. The small one, or the big one is you talked about the enrollment. I'm curious where you see it going in the next couple of years. And then the small question is it looks like early college essentials was something that is a big number on there before. It's not there FY19. So if you could talk a second about
Yes.
that.
So I see our enrollment growing. My team internally, we've set a goal of 400 by next year, which I know sounds crazy, but we're going to be able to do it because we've developed a plan where we're going to really be intentional and focused on students and their careers. And so we're depending heavily on Clark Central and Cedar and Classic City on their advisement programs. Now that we're really looking at career interest inventories and students are actually declaring pathways in 9th grade and saying, I want healthcare, we can actually get into the school and say, okay, these 60 students that I want healthcare, we can offer them a program here. We found right now students declare pathways, but we as a career academy don't use that data and go and meet with those kids and say, oh, if you want to be an engineer, we offer engineering. We just kind of see the data and just have let it sit. And that's to my fault, I'll say that. We don't use that data appropriately. So now that we can go in and say, okay, every 9th grader in Clark County has to declare a pathway based off the bridge bill, we can now target those students and say, hey, if that's what you want to do, please don't miss out on this opportunity. Let's talk about how we can get you over here. So we're projecting 400, and that's based off of how we split it. So each of us are now on a team. I'm on Team B. Team B's gonna win. So Team B is in charge of the underclassmen. So I do underclassmen recruitment with Mr. Molina. Ms. Hivers, our counselor, is now our 11th grade recruiter, and then Dr. Ramirez is our 10th grade recruiter. And so what we do is we're just gonna focus on those grades, on their career pathways of interest. We're working really closely with the counseling departments to say, hey, if you know a student who's interested in this, we'll come in. We have to head over to Clark Central or Cedar and meet and sit down. We'll do what it takes to make sure that they know this opportunity exists for them. So that's our projection.
Lawrence, I would just add to that the high school task force is looking at scheduling at the high school. What we're seeing is a lot of conflicts with the high school schedule and then trying to have students come over and participate in the courses that we offer here. So as we align these two together, that will support our students, we definitely think we'll meet those numbers.
Yeah, that's huge, especially because right now, 4th period is the longest technical period of the day in high school. And so that's where you get the ROTC leaderships, you get the mastery band classes. And those are the classes that students, you don't want to let that go. You work so hard to get to that point. But if you come here, you really can't have a 4th period because that's our transition time. And so you almost have to choose. And so, yeah, the work that the task force is doing is going to try to hopefully eliminate that barrier where students aren't having to decide between one or the other, but they can do both. I can be a mastery band student and I can come over and study cosmetology or culinary arts. To your second question, we eliminated early college essentials. So early college essentials was the pathway that was math, science, English, psychology. So traditionally we've offered early college essentials since we opened, and you're right, it was a very large pathway. But as an organization and as a program and as a board, we had to ask ourselves, especially as business and industry leaders, are we meeting our mission? Are we doing mission drift? Are we going from, okay, great, we can quote we have 270 kids, but if over half of them in early college essentials are not focused on careers and we're a career academy, what are we really doing? And so what we did is we made the decision as a board. Last year we voted to no longer offer the early college essentials pathway, which is again why we also see part of the drop, because again, students and families start learning it's kind of the free college program. You're the program I can come, get the credit, transfer to UGA, Georgia State, I'm good to go. We decided that's not our purpose and our mission. So we eliminated early college essentials and we added emergency medical, cosmetology, computer networking, and accounting. So eliminated one and then added one.
For those college credits that they needed to graduate, they still were able to take them. So it wasn't like we eliminated the English and the math for those who needed it to be able to graduate. We still offered it to them, but it's not a pathway that they can choose, just like they can choose a healthcare pathway.
Great point, yes. The early college essentials essentially was almost 12 to 15 core academic classes. So there was it wasn't leading to early childhood. It wasn't leading you to any of these other career pathways. And so yes, we still offer English. We offer two Englishes. We offer one history, one science, and one math. And so that still helps to cover the basis for those students who need those classes to graduate. We also now have 3 high school teachers as well, which you'll see. We have Dr. Cole, who was principal at one point, but he's come back. He's teaching our English. We have another teacher who's teaching math and SMART, and then Ms. McNeese is teaching social studies.
Can I ask one more question?
No, please, yeah. I welcome
This is
questions.
for Dr. Mees. What does it mean? So if they're able to, if to achieve a goal of having 400 students here as opposed to 216, what does that mean for the high schools and seats? I don't know. What does that mean for our high schools when more students are here doing that?
I think it actually is beneficial to the high schools because now you have students who are, to take Lawrence's term, mission driven in regards to getting into a career pathway. I think it will, excuse me, it will have an impact on our feeder programs into these programs. So if we're able to find students, it will be critical for us to continue to provide some type of entry-level course that you can take at your high schools that will then eventually lead into becoming a member of the Career Academy. But in terms of the actual impact, I think it's going to actually have a benefit to the high schools because now you have young people who really have an understanding of what they want to do with their post-secondary careers and lives. I think you were going to ask me a different question. And so I have to do it on behalf of the
That's what it means that Dr. Means needs to find
the other component, however, is if there are 400 students here at the Career Academy, we collectively as the district office, I think Lawrence tries to remind me at least weekly, we have to get out of their building. So you will notice the room next door used to be a conference room. That is no longer a conference room because we have to have classrooms to teach math. There are 2 office spaces upstairs that we had to consolidate. We have more of our staff coming together. They're working in a smaller office space now because we needed to create 2 more classroom spaces upstairs. So we're getting closer and closer to a space where we can't coexist. And ultimately the kids' needs of being in a career academy has to come first. The last thing I would say is if you drive past here during the day, you will notice that parking is virtually impossible because we have young people who are driving, and they're driving because they don't. Back to your original question, some of them don't want to miss some of the high school activities that are happening, so they want to come here, take their career courses, and then get back to their home high schools. And so parking has become very difficult and I'm going to say it for our kids and for our parents. I think for the rest of us, we'll figure it out. But it was really hard during student registration time. Families were trying to register their kids. Young people were trying to come to school for the Career Academy. It just became really tough.
Yeah, and we also have a lot of students who do internships. So part of our model is our business partners, which we have a lot of business partners. They accept our kids from our program to go do internships and apprenticeships, which means they have to be able to get to work. Which means they have, the best way to do that is to drive here. Then I can leave from here. I can get over to Caterpillar. From Caterpillar, I can get back to Cedar on time for class. As y'all know, our bus system doesn't work. It doesn't run out to Caterpillar, and even if it did, it'd take time. And so we're always going to have that need for parking. And so, but yes, I do remind Dr. Means quite frequently. And I mean, part of it is too, as well as like as we continue to grow, our businesses and Christy can highlight it at the end, but our businesses are recognizing that this is a space that they can come into, partner with us as a school system, and invest their money and their time into building programs for their workforce. And so in order to do that, for instance, our manufacturers, since fall 2020, But to build like a welding lab and a fabrication lab on site, that's going to take space, and that's going to take money that they've already said that they're willing to invest, but where does it go? And so again, having those business partners is good.
May I, Lawrence?
Oh, yes.
We have business partners in this community who are interested in working with the Career Academy in the district and creating spaces like maybe a maker space. But we can't explore those types of opportunities and ideas if you have your district office in the same space that Lawrence and the Career Academy board is trying to expand and make a centerpiece for career preparation in this community.
Can we just find smaller students?
Bring a little hub. So I just want to give you all examples of how our career pathways work. Allied Health is a high school pathway, so essentially what we do, we're on a block schedule. So students would take fall, spring, and then spring they'll do an internship, their CNA licensing exam, and then they're in the pathway assessment. For the college courses, it's a little bit different. The fact that they would take fall, and then 2 in the spring, and then in the spring they earn that credential. And so we work really closely with Athens Tech to make sure that our college pathways, most of them can be done in a year. Most of our college pathways you can knock out in 1 year. But we work really closely with our counseling department to make sure we're also not overloading our students. And so we don't want to say, the year isn't as important as making sure you're successful and you're actually learning the coursework. So our engineering program is 1.5 years, because you're not going to learn engineering in 1 year. We're not cramming 7 classes, down you in 1 year. We're going to make sure you actually get the time. Our healthcare program, emergency medical, you're not going to become an emergency medical technician in a year. So it's 1.5 years. And so we make sure students know that as they come in. I love our kids, so I always show pictures of kids. I do want to show here, we do have academies now. So each of our students are grouped into academies, which means they have a cohort of students that they work together closely with. And so it's really great because during those first couple weeks of schools, we can target business and industry and say, hey, all of our healthcare professionals in the community, come talk to the healthcare academy. So these are all the students who want to be, me and CJ just met a young lady in the back, she wants to be a psychiatrist. So she's taking Ms. Lindsay's healthcare program because she has dreams of wanting to go to UGA and then getting into a medical program and becoming a psychiatrist. So she might be going to nursing or veterinary medicine, but they're all able to work together to talk about what information do they know to be successful. So now I'm going to shift. I didn't tell you the number of slides I have, but it was actually right at 24. So if you're counting, you should know I'm actually right about a couple left. But you have copies, so you should be good. Our governance body. So we are governed by a board. The board evaluates me and
You did really good.
Thank you. But they are a legal body. Every career academy is required to have a governance board. That's part of the charter, it's part of the law. And so the board really exists to make sure that the rules and policies and foundation of this career academy is really just operating the way that it should be. They also make sure that the way we're approved under the Clark County School District's charter, everything that was kind of promised in that charter is being upheld, and that our contract with the state, we're actually following all those rules and policies that we've signed to say that we'll do as a career academy. So as you all may know, when we first opened, we received that $3 million grant from the Technical College System of Georgia. And so we partnered with Athens Tech for 5 years, and we continue to grow beyond those 5 years, and we're continuing to offer more classes. But we make sure that we're following every rule and policy that's part of that. They also make sure that we don't offer pathways that aren't relevant. And so I'll give an example. You probably saw it before, interior design. Interior design was an interest of people at some point, of administration at one point. But we don't have a lot of jobs for interior designers in Athens. And so when our board looked at it and we're trying to figure out where's our industry going, is there enough jobs if we're training 30 students a year in interior design? Are they all going to get a job in interior design when they graduate? The answer to us was no. There wasn't that many jobs out there. So we had to make a decision. We're going to cut interior design. It's exciting. We love that you're going to get HGTV, but that's not here in Athens. It's not meeting our mission. Our board works really closely with me. Like I said, they evaluate me. Technically, they're part of the process of hiring me. And the exact opposite, which I won't mention or jinx myself, but releasing me, I guess they'd also be the term to use. They represent community trust. So our board members are very close, and even if they work from different industries, they make sure that their industry is represented and that the people who they're there at the table to represent, their voices are heard. So although we don't have 20 manufacturers at our table, we have someone from Eaton now. We had Caterpillar previously, and we had Carrier. So we always have someone there who can speak the voice for the manufacturers and say, hey, this is what we need. We have hospitality, we have criminal justice and law. And so we make sure that those industries are represented and give voice to what's needed here. They create a network of support to help us achieve our mission and ultimately help to build more partnerships for us. So our students need apprenticeships and internship sites. So our board is really great at making sure that the folks they know in their circle are opening up their doors so that our students can get in there and say, wow, like this is something I really want to do. I use the example of early childhood very quickly because I know I'm getting close to my time. Our early childhood student, one of our students, I remember she was so young cold about early childhood. That was like her life dream, to be a pre-K teacher, because she had a little brother at home and she loved her little brother. And so we met the Office of Early Learning, met with Greg, and we got her in her classroom. And I remember after her second day, she was just like in my office in tears because she was like, there's like 15 of them and they're just like talking to me. And so I think, again, but it's important to know that connection, that exposure. So yes, she loves her little brother, she loves one child. That may not mean you want 15 of them around you. So I always tell that story because I think it really helped me to think about, wow, like our kids really need exposure to these careers before they decide to spend their whole life and their money when they graduate when pursuing that degree, and they've never even had a chance to really explore what it actually means. So that's really what we're trying to do here.
One thing I like to mention about partnership is it's important for us as a board and also for you as well. So that if you would like to become a partner with the Career Academy and know someone that would, I brought partnership application forms and I will link with you to complete and turn into launch at your convenience.
Yes, please partner. If you want to take any of our students on as an intern or apprentice, even just one day. Again, like I said, sometimes it's just about our students seeing, wow, this is what you do. I didn't even know this was a job. And then they get so excited about it. And then that becomes our job to make sure we cultivate that excitement and get them to where they have to go.
I've had 4 students in the legal field from here, and they have done an excellent job. So I encourage you, whether you can do it on a regular basis or just one time, to become a partner in whatever way is feasible for you.
She has some great students. They come back and talk about the court cases. They can't tell me details, but it was really juicy. So we're getting towards the end, but this was important because our board goes through training similar to the Board of Education required. Please correct me, CJ, 6 hours a year.
5 and 7.
5 and 7. 5 hours of training if you're a returning board member, and 7, that's a state policy. So similar to the Board of Ed, we do have to go through training. And so this is just important because it kind of, again, goes back into what is the power of the board versus what are, processes that the board shouldn't do. So they don't meddle in management, because they don't second guess me, but provide advice to not second guess and not allowing people to jump the chain of command. So make sure other board members aren't kind of overstepping and doing things that aren't becoming of what a board should be doing. And then this is just, I thought it was important because we're meeting with you all. How does this work? How does the state kind of define our relationship or the board's relationship with the local Board of Education? It's really just making sure that we are following policies that have been set forth by the Board of Ed, but also making sure that we're adopting a strategic plan that's aligned with the strategic plan you all have voted on and you'll accept it as your as a district policy and the district plan. We adopt a budget. Again, they hire a leader, which would be the CEO. And they keep a succession plan. So if something happens, something crazy. And then they hold me accountable and they conduct regular self-evaluations. And CJ has copies of my evaluation, which she beautifully brought in case people want copies, so we can look at that. But this is, again, just information that I thought was important. This, again, was based off the questions that I received. How does the kind of governance structure, organizational chart for us work? Ultimately, local Board of Education and superintendent are here. And then we, again, help to implement these parts, or the board helps to implement these parts of our organization, our program, based off of what comes from up here. And so I just thought this was important because I know I've received questions. So how does our board work in collaboration with the local Board of Ed? We're here to support what you all are doing here. So good. And then lastly, they assess the strength of our program. They, again, look to know, so most of our board members know where our industry is going. That's the beauty of having business and industry leaders, is they know who's coming in town, which business is being established. They know what they're not going to hire for anymore. I had the opportunity to meet with some manufacturers, and when my previous work-based learning coordinator was with me, and they talked about how they're shifting from, some of these mechanical linemen, like the linemen who stand there and move things from one place to another. They don't need people to do that. They have a system. So they really need somebody who can do computer programming and robotics, because they need someone who can program the machine to move the thing. They don't need 50 bodies to stand there to move it. And so that was kind of an aha moment of, okay, so we need to evaluate what we're doing to make sure we're offering robotics or computer programming courses so that way our students can get in there and they have the job and the skills to get that job. More pictures. Yeah, love pictures. I will note one thing we do a lot here is, you may have gotten invitations, and if not, you probably will at some point. We bring in a lot of speakers, and because our kids love them. I call them kids, students, they love them. I think there's power to having community members come in and talk to our students about their careers. And so I think probably every week this school year, we've had at least 5 to 6 speakers. We've had almost 40 already just this school year alone. And it's so great because we do feedback, and the feedback from students every time. I didn't even know that was a thing. I've never considered that. Please bring more. We had the banks, the local banks came in. We had 5 of the banks come in and talk about budgeting and saving. And the kids asked really great questions like, I don't think my parents have a bank account. So like, what does this look like? Can I get one? Like, how do I sign up? And so I want to save, or I've been working at Cookout for a year and I don't have anything to show for it. And so it's been really cool to like have speakers come in and talk to the students on a regular basis, because they're also being exposed to careers beyond just the ones we traditionally talk about. This is the last section, which is senior PowerPoint. Time check.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. How do we develop pathways at the Career Academy? So this is a great question. We don't just say, well, I like interior design, I'm gonna offer interior design. We start at the first step is, do we have students who are interested in that pathway? Or do we have business leaders and business and industries here in town who are saying, this is a high need. We cannot find talent in Clark County for this particular job. And so that again is where our manufacturers come in, our healthcare. When our healthcare system came to us, St. Mary's and Piedmont Regional, and they said, you know what, y'all are training students in healthcare access. That's what the people that sit at the front desk when you get hurt, you gotta pay your bill and you sign in. They don't hire those people anymore. They don't need that as a job because it's all computerized. You can literally enter in your social security number, and it all populates on its own. So they say we don't need that anymore. We need our CNAs, we need EMTs, we need people who can drive ambulances and pick people up. And so they expressed that as like a really high need. And so we were able to go from there. We were able to gauge student interest. How many students do we have who are interested in the healthcare field? It was actually one of our highest career fields of interest. And then I worked in collaboration with Addis Technical College, the school district's administration, and we developed a pathway. And we talked about how can it be offered? How many days is it going to take? Is it going to be a year? Is it 2 years? How many students can we get through there? What labs do we need? That's a big piece. You know, do we need a special lab to offer EMT, or can we do it without one? Once solidified, we developed an MOU, and then we announced our program. And then students were able to take those classes. So that's where our EMT program came from. Our accounting program came from several nonprofits in town. So it was actually kind of a different way, but nonprofits saying that they don't have an adequate way to keep their books. A lot of nonprofits can't afford CPAs to do their finances. And so we had several nonprofits approach us, like, can you train students to help us to work on our books? And accounting itself can go into banking and finance, and there's a lot of other fields. And so that's how accounting came about. We recruit the students, placement tests, and then they're on their way again. So this just kind of writes what I just said up in kind of text form. It's a very holistic approach. It's not a surprise process. Again, it's not Lawrence likes, I don't know what Lawrence likes. Lawrence likes knitting, so we're gonna offer a knitting pathway. I don't like knitting, but that's not how it works. Each of it, we take a lot of time. And again, to your question, it takes about 1.5 years just to get through all of these steps. And so that's also why we have to look at students who aren't going into their senior year. We'll survey students from the 9th and 10th grade or 8th grade, because by the time we even get this developed, those are the students who are actually coming to the program. The juniors and seniors would have graduated.
Yeah, this may or may not be a career academy. This may or may not be, the career academy may not be the place for this. But what about any pathways for entrepreneurship? Or, I mean, I know that's kind of a additional layer sometimes with a pathway. Like if you're a bookkeeper or accounting pathway, then you can maybe layer that with some entrepreneurial type classes to be able to market yourself to multiple businesses and be your own entity, versus having to go work for somebody, which isn't a bad thing, but there's a lot of benefit in working for yourself too. Is that something that is there? I don't even know how you would develop it. I mean,
so not on the Career Academy side, how we explore entrepreneurship. Yeah, it's been on my radar. But Clark Central and Cedar Shoals, we've worked I was doing CTE for the district, working really closely with Paul Delargy, who has a program called Real Edge, and that's training our CTE teachers in entrepreneurship. And so they learn the entrepreneurship foundations, and they can use that integrated into their classes. And so this past summer, he had 4 teachers from Cedar Shoals and then 2 here from the Career Academy, and they did a 3-week summer training program learning how to integrate entrepreneurship into the classroom. And so I use the example of how Manny, Chef Stone, is using entrepreneurship. Is really highlighting how Meals in the Middle was done last year, but instead trying to target maybe families and people in the community who can't actually afford the $20 meal. And so having it where the students are now building this project-based learning where they can make spaghetti dinners, but even though they're not going to charge $20, they can charge $1 or $2, and that money goes right back into the cycle. And so the Buzz Cafe, he ramped it up to be more all student ran, student driven, student managed. And so them learning, how does the business work? Where does the money come in? How does inventory work? And so he's applying those skills in that here. I can't speak to how the teachers at the other schools are applying it, but Paul DeLarge's been great at kind of getting our teachers trained, our CTA teachers trained in that strategy. But
Is that Nick Setchell and that?
Nick Setchell, Julie Throne, yes.
Last week I attended Athens Made, and are we working with them, or have they approached district? It seems like these are, I kind of was impressed because everybody was from Athens that has businesses, and some of them are very, very profitable businesses after I got to know them, and I'm glad I do now. But has there been a conversation about this? This was the first time I heard of them, some of this in life.
Yeah, with Mary Charles Howard. Yeah, we've talked.
Janelle was on her board.
Yeah, and Janelle Simpson, our previous work-based learning coordinator, was on their board. And part of that was being a liaison to making sure they knew that the Athens Community Career Academy is Athens made. It's an innovation of the Clark County School District. We were highlighted in their newsletter, let's say February or March. So every month they send a newsletter out to all the businesses, and they basically highlight the organization. So they've done KinderCore, they've done Creature Comforts. And so we were one of the ones they highlighted in early spring as an Athens innovation or Athens made program. And it's really good too, because that's also where we got a lot more internship sites. So like KinderCore, who makes vinyls here in town, we were able to place students who are interested in music or manufacturing at KinderCore because they saw us through the newsletter. So this goes kind of, I've talked about this, but manufacturing is a huge focus for us right now. This is the first year we have not offered a manufacturing pathway. And here in Athens, we have a lot of manufacturers. And so we recognize that as a board, in order to meet our workforce need, we certainly have to have a manufacturing pathway. That means that I got to meet with the manufacturers this summer and just talk about what the vision could be and how try to help empower the manufacturers to really get more involved in building out this kind of curriculum process. And so as I mentioned, they're kind of in this step right here, exploring curriculum to see, what needs can be met. And then eventually we'll get down here. So expected launch is fall 2020. Our focus this year is getting on our hospitality academy even stronger. And so we have a lot of students interested in culinary arts and hospitality. Right now they share the kitchen with school nutrition. And so it's kind of limited to the amount of students we can put there safely. And so we're trying to figure out creative ways of making sure students have access to that career pathway without, sacrificing safety. And so right now we're focused on evaluating the space needs. We'll be working on that in the next several weeks. And then we've already entertained conversations with Piedmont College, who's launched a new hospitality program. And some of y'all may have been at the launch that they did at the Classic Center. And so we talked with Piedmont College 2 weeks ago about how can we build a pipeline from us, Athens Tech, to Piedmont College using the Upshaw Bentley Scholarship. So that way students don't pay any money for college at all. So they can come through us, start in culinary, go through Athens Tech, get some hospitality management courses, and then Piedmont, through the Upshaw Bentley Scholarship, will pay for any Clark County student who graduates from a CCSD school. They can go to Piedmont for free. And so they'll go through the hospitality management track. So that's where we are now. We're kind of in different orders, but I just want to show you, we've been doing this for about 8 or 9 months. And so it just takes time. But it's going to be really great when it launches. Paul may agree with me on that one. And so the last thing is we are in the process of doing our strategic plan. We started our strategic plan last year. It was a fun process. We had about 3 or 4 stakeholder meetings where we invited community members, business, nonprofits. We wanted to get people's voices. What do you want to see out of your career academy? Because we are here to serve the community. That's why we're a community career academy. We partnered with Ford's Next Generation of Learning. They've done strategic plans nationally for career academies all across the country. They've also done strategic planning for the Career Academy in Barrow, as well as some of the surrounding areas. And so just talking to my colleagues, it was a very strong partnership. The state, because we decided to partner with Ford, funded it for us, so we don't have to pay anything, which is great. We did put a pause on it so that we could wait until the new CCSD strategic plan was finished, because again, we don't want to develop a separate plan because we want to be aligned with what we're doing as a district. And so these are the 3 kind of tiers of the strategic plan. And what we've done now is kind of our most recent step is how do we align what we're doing as a career academy? So how do we support equity, which again, you all know is a big part of the plan, equity, how do we make sure the bullet points, and I'm not gonna go through the bullet points, but how do we make sure we're emphasizing the district's vision, mission, and core beliefs? How do we make sure that our plan includes objectives that support pretty much the indicators of college and career success? And then really focusing on making sure that our academy's action plan supports all the district priorities. And so we've done that work. It was a very long meeting, but it was worth it because now we know exactly how our plan should be developed to fit into the Clark County School District plan. So we're not just creating some separate plan that we're following. It is completely aligned. It's going to be completely aligned with what we're doing as a district as a whole. The goal is to have that plan done by November. And so the consultants will be coming constantly till then, and we'll be bringing in more business leaders. So our next steps is we're going to reconvene all of our business and industry leaders and get their feedback. That is the last thing. This is the last piece. I just want to show you this because this question came up is what are our, oh, this isn't me. Yeah. I just want to show you how our CTA pathways are currently aligned to the Career Academy. I'm sorry, I thought I could make it there, but I just wanted you to see kind of as Dr. Means was talking about, how do we build those feeder programs that where students can take it from middle school to high school to the Career Academy. And so you can see where we currently are. And so what we're working on now is identifying opportunities. So where those gaps exist and where can we fill those gaps at the high schools or at the Career Academy, make sure that a student can start agriculture in middle school. And I'm excited to find out that actually BHL is offering the high school agriculture program, one high school agriculture course. So how do you start in middle school, go to Park Central or Cedar in high school, and maybe continue on maybe an agribusiness course at the Career Academy. And so that's what we're working on now. Both the high schools do have engineering programs. We have an engineering program. So again, that vertical alignment, so that students can go from one place to the next. And so that's really my last step, my last slide. Are there any questions? I know it's a lot of information. I do appreciate y'all in the back paying attention.
I have a question here.
Go for it.
Going back to the governance structure, which was a few slides back.
Yeah, I don't know where it's at.
It's not too far back.
This one?
So just so I'm clear as a board member, it sounds like the way that the Board of Education really communicates, it's mediated by the strategic plan based on this presentation. So the work that the board does and then the superintendent and other people that have input for the strategic plan informs what you do. I'm just getting the arrows right because there's an arrow up to the Board of Education, but the rest of it's kind of the constitutional authority, but really it's the strategic plan that you're listening for. That just helps us, I think, know how we're communicating and how we need to be communicating.
Yes, absolutely.
Small question, how are vacancies on your board filled?
So
And
we
how long do you-
receive recommendations. So mainly the board will come with recommendations. One thing we do is we try to target and make sure every industry, not every, but the industries present here in Athens are represented. And so, for instance, Paul, recent board member, recognized that hospitality is a very growing and thriving industry in Athens. So he was recommended to the rest of the board as a candidate because of his work in hospitality, and then the board considers it. We talk about whether there's any reservations, any dark past or anything, and then they vote. And then once the vote is made, then they come on board. So right now, I believe we have maybe
We have 12 rotating members. Rotating meaning we can serve 2 terms at a time, maximum of 6 years total. So the rotating members have to represent by our bylaws, industry, business, law, government, parents. So that we have a nominating committee that Christy chairs, and she makes sure that we're informed who in the community should be approached to serve those 2-year terms. And so we try to rotate to make sure we're covering all the industries. So vacancies are filled when someone comes off, and her committee gets together and make recommendations to full board as to who should fill the vacancy. We vote at one of our regular meetings to fill that vacancy, and that person serves either the remainder of that 2-year term or can start another 2-year term. There are about probably 4 of us that'll max out in our 6 years at the end of the 2020 school term. And hopefully we will continuously have a group. So if you're wanting to recommend someone to serve on our board, we're happy to receive that information as well.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much. I'm excited to see the alignment with the CTAE. That is absolutely crystal clear for me again this year. So that's a great stride to see that mapping from middle school through high school over to the Career Academy. That is so necessary, and I appreciate it. It's awesome.
Thank you. Ms. Davies is teaching class here. She's teaching right upstairs. Thank you.
That was a great presentation.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Christy also wanted to invite you all.
Oh, I was gonna mention, on October the 23rd, Howard is going to take the Career Academy Board to the Newman Central Education Center there, the first career academy in the state. And so our board will go, and we will invite some industry leaders to go in town. We will invite the chamber president, some other key stakeholders, and we will have some slots for the Board of Education members. So as we determine how many we have, I will get with Dr. Meeks, and we'll figure out how many slots we have. We can only take 25 to 30 people, but the whole purpose to go is to see the first one that was developed and how far they've come and how the labs are built out, and to see how it has gelled working with the industry, the business leaders, the technical college, and the school district, and how everybody has to participate to make it to continue to grow. I mean, just like Dr. Meeks said, I mean, we need this whole building right now and more, and so we need to see how other career academies are making that work, and we need to get our board, the Career Academy Board, excited about that, because we need to dream big. We need to see what do we want to be and how we're going to get there. And so one way of doing that is to see what another school system is doing, so we'll have really big goals and big dreams and start working toward that. Because we've got industry that wants to put some money up and build out some labs, and so we need to start thinking way down the road.
That'd be great. We'd be happy to help fill up some of those seats, because I agree with you, that perspective is really valuable.
Yeah.
I know some board members would be interested in that.
And I just want to say again, I've attended some of their meetings, and I want to thank the board members again. Your participation and your insight, and you've got some outstanding people on your board, and we are very fortunate for your service on the Career Academy. Just want to make sure you know how much we appreciate you.
We appreciate you whenever you can come. Anybody's always welcome. We thank you for sharing with us.
Great, thank you. Thanks again.
Mr. President, just a few things.
Yes, go
One, I can't remember, and Ms. Baraka, if you can correct me, that would be great. But I think we had a meeting a few weeks ago with the board and identified not only committees that people are on, but also meetings that board members may want to observe and attend. And we tried to formalize it. I don't think we put the Career Academy on as one of the meetings that we would have a board member designated to. Okay, and so board of Education members, you do know that there's a designated person to attend the Office of Early Learning meetings and other places. I would ask you to think about perhaps identifying and designating a Board of Education member who is consistently at those meetings, or have a person in an alternate. So there's always a rep from the Board of Education. That's just one suggestion.
Like a foundation.
Exactly. And we didn't talk about that at that last meeting, but I think as we continue to try to strengthen the relationship, that would be helpful. I know that Vice Chair CJ over there has Lawrence's evaluation, but I just want to say you don't need it. We have a gem in Lawrence Harris. He's doing an amazing job, and he has a special connection with his students. But you can tell how much it's personal to him because he calls them his kids. And as you continue to walk around this facility, you'll feel that there's a spirit here of coming together and working together and focusing on kids' needs. And so, Lawrence, thank you. One thing that I was able to observe pretty quickly was Lawrence has 3 of those name tags because there's different titles that we've provided him over the years. And so we've tried to give him some help and support over this last year. So that's why Dr. Ramirez is here. Dr. Ramirez helps with supervision of the students, obviously, but more importantly, he is that bridge between what we do from a CTE standpoint in our middle schools and high schools and what we want to do at the Career Academy. So we're trying to be more strategic about what that bridge is. And just this summer, Lawrence, and again, advocating for his students, said, I know we're not a school, but I'm concerned about the flow, the ebb and flow of the public being able to just walk into our facility and no one being able to stop and at least check in with someone from a safety standpoint. So if you come to the Career Academy this year, you will see that there's a receptionist, that at least at a minimum, you have to check in and be buzzed in, just like you have to at any other of our schools. So that's all the vision of Mr. Harris and his team. They're doing good work. And I think the last thing I would share is, and I don't know all the history, but when you talk about the history, I think there was some turf that high schools wanted to protect. In addition, from the Career Academy, his relationships with our high school principals, and subsequently then it trickles down to the counseling departments, has helped a great deal. And so now our high schools are seeing this as a pathway versus it being another thing. And so I just want you to know that, as Carol said, it's an amazing board that is there in pushing and really encouraging Lawrence, but at the same time, we have a very good leader, Mr. Harris.
Just to piggyback that, I felt like this presentation, just in my mind, I was going back to pre-U, like all the years of that Career Academy. And there were so many times where I was like, what is this thing? Like, it was just so, anyway, I felt the laser focus tonight. I really felt the laser focus. There's no question in my mind. And thank you very, very much. And it's been like, that's been ongoing. It's not just tonight for the first time, but it just has gotten even more targeted and strategic. And so I really appreciate it. It was just a really clear and clarifying presentation. Thank you.
We have another meeting with the Career Academy board. It's scheduled for March. We would like to have that meeting start at 5 o'clock versus 6 o'clock. And so we will try to connect that to your March work session meeting. So that date of the March work session meeting, just please know, and Ms. Vodka sent something out to board members, but that will be a 5 o'clock start versus 6, just so we're all on the record.
And what's on deck to be accomplished in that meeting?
Well, I think, the Academy board may have some more items to bring to the board. I think the timing of it was done strategically. That's typically around the time we're doing budgeting.
Yeah.
It's typically around the time where we're doing scheduling and we're starting to forecast what things look like. And I think the messaging of, so what is the district going to do with the district offices? We have very polite members of the Academy board here, but they are curious in terms of what's the game plan, because it does, the board has shared with me, it impacts their ability to vision and think about what's next. So I think those are at least some preliminary items. Obviously, there will be some give and take between what the group wants to do, but there's also a goal of trying to at least ensure that the Academy board members and the Board of Education members know who each other are. And so between that time period, we also want to just have some social time as well.
Thank you. I was just going to check real quick. That's pretty great. Thank you so much. That's fantastic.
Thank you all for being here.
And thank you for the chips. You're welcome.
Enjoy the food.
We like it.
Especially weekends. Okay, so moving on with the next item of our agenda, we have our superintendent report. We have received a number of informational items. The first one is the Citizens Oversight Committee and SPOS monthly reports. Any questions about those reports that we received?
Just a highlight, Mr. Chair, I want to thank all the board members who were able to attend the ribbon cutting ceremony at Oglethorpe. We are still completing some punch list items with that school and the construction of that school, but they're minor items there. But again, thank you for being there and the public for being there. Our work at BHL and COIL is moving along. There was a hurdle in that the first few weeks of school, we didn't have internet connection as quickly as we wanted to at those two schools. That's now been addressed. It shows you how much we are in the 21st century. Teachers were really at a loss in terms of what do I do? And so that was a challenge, but we got through it. And so we're pleased with that progress. And then the construction of Hillsman is moving along. If you drive past that site, you'll see that it's progressing. Those are just highlights.
Just to clarify too, is it Greg who volunteered to attend those meetings, or we have not had a board member at the COC meetings?
So we actually had 2 board members at the CLC meetings.
I've been there and Megan's been there.
Okay.
We're the 2 that were,
I'm sorry, it's not on the minutes, so.
You're thinking about Head Start, early start.
July, so this was,
Was Allison
this was
there?
from the July meeting. So
Yeah.
we were both out of town for the July meeting.
Oh, okay, but it was the August, but somebody's going to those?
Yes.
Okay.
And I need to offer my apologies for missing that event, which I have absolutely no good excuse for, other than it was on a Sunday, and I got busy on some things, and didn't even look at my phone all day long. And so, but I know there's been a tremendous amount of work put into that, and I feel horrible for having missed that, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows there was nothing other than Jared and his shorts that made that not possible.
I'm glad that Sarah mentioned about the CFC meeting this second week. That was my point when I said when your reports, maybe people are more aware of the CFC. There's been misunderstanding who's on there, how they got on there. It's just simple stuff, but if there's some way when you're just as a regular routine, because I find the meetings very valuable. I think that the information should be highlighted like everything else. So I'm glad she mentioned that. And that was my point when I mentioned it at the last.
And so I would just encourage, let's continue to have the conversation as a group, because I think it may be more beneficial for the board members who do attend those meetings. When we get to this point in the agenda, allow the board members to speak. I don't have to be the conveyor of that information. If there are board members who are taking time out of their schedules to be there, then you have the floor. And so obviously I can provide that information, but just as we've created that space for other areas of the board to speak when they attend things, I think it's actually more powerful if the board members who are attending those meetings to speak. And I'll bring it full circle to the Career Academy. That's why I would just I would humbly recommend that the board consider having a board member designee at those meetings and an alternate. I think we had a conversation of whoever you identify, there always has to be an alternate. So
I totally agree with that. That was good.
Should we add that in the January committees?
I think
Yes,
so.
that would be awesome.
Should y'all add that?
Yes. that-
So if you're adding, please add, and I was going to mention it later, but Athens Area Community Foundation, I represent the foundation as a school board member. I made one report since I've been on the board. But we don't meet that often either, but I still think that should be, they're going to expect in January an appointee for the foundation.
I'm sorry, which organization?
The Athens Area Community Foundation.
Right, it is on the list. That is on the list.
And maybe we can be more deliberate and strategize about perhaps, because we can obviously overwhelm our meetings with community reports at some point. So maybe we could stagger them or something like that. So there's a touch point with each of these ongoing responsibilities without being overwhelmed.
Well, the foundation doesn't meet that often.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I think even if it's something that's sent by email, it might be enough. But I actually do actually do represent the school board. And I don't think school board members know that I do represent the school.
That's great, thank you. Did you have something?
Yeah, I had a couple of things. So one along those lines was just to make sure that when the agendas are being planned way out in advance, that you make sure that you do, maybe in a staggered sort of way, include the different organizations that we talked about. Because I'm not sure they were, and that probably wasn't the intent of setting up those agendas, because you were looking at the big ticket items. But when I looked at that, I think the information items were kind of boilerplate, maybe. So maybe if you could go back and just make sure that you get a report from all the groups we talked about that need to be those representative groups, and just figure out an order for them the same way you're figuring an order for the big items.
Good suggestion.
Thank you. I got complimented at the Foundation for Excellence because the award winners are being announced, and I said I didn't have anything to do with that, but I just, that triggered my thinking. Okay, well, I want to make sure that I don't always have to ask for that to be on there, because it should be in some kind of order. And we can probably think for that group what the appropriate months are, because there are certain months that matter, just like for ACF. You can probably pick 1 month, right, that would work. That was one thing. The other thing, I asked a good question at the last board meeting about where we stood with COIL and BHL. Would there be any way, I'm not trying to make more work for anybody, but since I don't remember what phase 2 and phase 3 are like, is there a way to have just a little bit bigger picture of the construction that's going on? Because what I asked was, well, when will it be through? And you started laughing. I'm like, through? We're just trying to get to the end of phase 1. And that's because I just couldn't remember how far out we had that. And so that would personally help me. Just a one-pager that kind of shows more than what we've currently got, which just takes us out to notification to BOE, which is all good, but it doesn't give me enough information to remember where we stand on some of these projects.
But it goes back to what Dr. Mean said too about board members, because we get those detailed reports at the COC meetings.
Okay.
So if board members are reporting back, that would clarify that really good.
But will create that one pager.
Yeah. So it's not a big deal. It just, I need a 10,000-foot view on this.
Is that something? Great.
President, I could just make a point. Anything related to the school district is open. It's an open meeting, COC and the Career Academy meetings too. So even though we may have a designated person, anyone can attend. And I think it's always good to drop in at least once a month. I mean, once a year, and just feel.
Thank you. Next up, we have SPOS 4 and 5 reports related. Any questions on those? We have early Head Start Policy Council meeting minutes and reports.
I have a question. I don't know how I'm getting sucked into it, early Head Start, but I've started reading word for word again those reports.
Everybody wants to be a part of it.
I do. But you have an awful lot of training.
Yes, ma'am.
Coming up. They seem to be online. Is it available to the public? Can we have some parent groups participate in some of those? Because there are a lot of things dealing with the social emotional development there that I thought would be fantastic for some of our community partners who are interested in doing something to help our kids.
So the online trainings that we have are some webinars that are available for our staff, but we also are providing right now, both through our GOSA grant and through our Early Head Start grant, some of the Circle of Security, attachment and bonding parenting workshops. And so that is a piece of what we're doing. And we had a parent activity just last week for parents that had graduated from the coursework and then had the opportunity to engage in activities with their children and practice with their children some of that attachment and bonding, circling and that.
I mean, it looks like an extraordinary program, and so, yeah, maybe I'll just get with you outside here, we can have that conversation.
Absolutely, and there are some opportunities for that training, and I know that.
Maybe we can send some folks to sit in on that. Great, thank
Thank you.
I have a question too. It indicated some of your policy, your personnel decisions would be referred to the Board of Education. And this is the July minutes.
That is because when our policy council approves hires, but they're not hired until the board approves those hires.
When did they come? Were they?
They come with they'll come always with the board when you vote. So some of those would have been the last round.
In August.
In August, yes, ma'am.
Other questions? Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Maybe service.
We have a report on Parent Advisory Board meeting. Which is,
The first meeting is next week.
Okay.
Do we have a schedule?
No, we don't. We don't have a schedule at this point.
I'll go. I'll go the first.
Wow, thank you.
They are on your, board,
They're on
they're on
they're
the
on the
calendar,
calendar.
all different meetings.
Okay.
I got that first.
If thank you, Ms. Davis, for volunteering for that. If we could work around the schedule, that'd be fantastic, so we don't lose track of who's gone, who,
Do you mean like a sign-up schedule?
right,
Okay.
for board members to stay all this month, next month. Thank you.
Are they all here now?
Yes.
Is the Bus Cafe ever gonna be open when we have this meeting?
We'll check with Mr. Harris.
Well, I can work on that for you.
Yes.
You can make a lot of money. Pickles, the pickles is special.
The chocolate chip cookie.
Sounds like we need to open up.
24/7.
I'm on a 28-day diet plan, so let's make sure it's all done by then, right? I'll be ready.
We received minutes from some more meetings, including the work session meeting from August 2nd, 2018. Any questions or comments around those minutes? Any changes to those? We also received the regular meeting on August 9th, 2018. Comments? And called board meeting August 21st, 2018. May go down in history as the shortest meeting.
Wasn't that short?
Yes.
You skipped over an information item with the CEIS update. It's not
Thank you.
on the agenda, but is this new funding or old funding, or why is this an information item at this point?
It's included in our packet. I have it here. It was included in our packet around CEIS update, consolidated early intervention intervening services.
The literacy program? Yeah,
It's not on board now.
So,
Yes.
the question is, why has this information been provided? Executive Director Heidi Hill of our Special Education Department felt that this would be informative information for the Board of Education. So that's why it's been provided to you. It's not an agenda item. It was placed in your packet in preparation for this month because this was the month in which Ms. Hill wanted to give you the information. If there are additional questions regarding this information, then please forward them to me and I will make sure that they are addressed. But it was, what we want to do is give the Board of Education as much information as possible. And it shouldn't always have to be an agenda item as well. And so we're just trying to keep you updated in terms of things that are happening throughout the organization. So that's why the information is provided.
So this will be coming back in November for some kind of board.
Perhaps. If there's a need for action, then it will be placed on an agenda item for action. In some cases, this information doesn't require any action. It's simply we're providing you the information so you are informed.
I took it as background information about one of our tools that we're using to address literacy, right? It was great detail. Actually, I'm gonna have to do it again when I got 4 hours to do only that, because it was a lot of information.
I don't see that on board docs.
Right. Because it's not part of the agenda. It was in your packet as you prepared for this month, again, because we wanted to provide you with information, you shouldn't only, it's our belief that you shouldn't only receive information that is on an agenda for action. We're not doing you any favors as a governing board if you're only getting that information. So this is a process that we're trying to introduce to say, here's more information that you may want. It may also spur on ideas that you have of, hey, I'm interested in other information in the organization. Can someone provide me an overview? And so that's why this has been provided. It's just to give you more data and information. Because if we limit the information that you receive only to what's on an agenda for action, then we're limiting your perspective in the organization.
Yeah, but this was just under information, but it wasn't listed on here. But when I was reading it, it's very interesting.
It was listed under information?
Well, it's not listed, but it's in the information section.
Yes, ma'am. Because it's not part of the agenda. We provided it as information, but it's not an item that's on your agenda for the month of September. It's for information.
So would that be just from because I missed it completely, because I went to
You use it for that. So.
And so just from a logistics, I think that would have been a really great separate email for information, whatever. If it's not an agenda item, maybe that could just be a separate, because I don't.
We don't want to miss it.
I'm so in love with board docs. Like, I can't believe I didn't get like 1 more month on it or 2 more months on it or whatever. But it's so much easier to click through and read instead of having to scroll through that packet. And there were so many times where I would have to go all the way back. Anyway, so when this came out, I was like, score, and I didn't open that packet because I was like, oh, I can click through and read the whole thing on board docs.
I think that's, yes.
We're in a little bit of a hybrid,
I
and
agree,
so
yeah.
I send things out in a work packet. I would imagine, Dr. Means, that because it would not be an agenda item, that would never show up on board docs, CEIS, we would have sent that separately.
But we get information emails, like, so it's kind of a weird
So I probably confuse things by
place
including
for
it
it. Yeah.
originally in the packet.
Or just a separate email. would be
Okay.
great, Yeah.
Sure.
Because if it's not part of the meeting, it's just like in a Friday update or in a
Sure.
whatever would be a place where I would look for that sort of information. If it's not a meeting agenda item,
Yeah.
I would look for it more. in a
Sending
different-
it separately, and then things that will be on the agenda, you will find in board docs.
Correct.
I think as we transition to board docs, that's how we
Yeah.
will, and once we land there, this is a hybrid month
Right.
where we send out a PDF packet and have it on board docs as well.
Not on the agenda, we don't have any questions about that, right?
Well,
Who is that person that I can talk to after this meeting? I just have one question.
But I think it offers the board some really interesting data points as to follow, to see what difference this funding and how it's being implemented is making. Because
That was the intent.
it's very important just to read through this and what it's supposed to be doing and the structure that has been implemented to accomplish that. So I would like to, just like the other data that we received this month, that I thought was very helpful on absences, parties, and all of that. This is really a good data point to see how this impact is making a difference with our children.
So that is not a consent agenda item now.
I think what Ms. Williams is bringing up is a good point, and so we, let's back up and talk about our balanced governance model. So if you have a balanced governance model, part of it is to provide the board with as much data as possible. And so once you have received the data, you have more power to ask additional questions to go deeper. So as we continue to provide data to you, you are encouraged to give me a call. Let me know if you have additional questions about it. If those questions are really deep in terms of we should talk about this more, we can carve out time then in subsequent meetings under the superintendent's report in a work session to talk about it more. But that is the power of a balanced governance model, where when the board is informed and they have data about the organization, then data will always be a flashlight into what else do you need to look for? And so hopefully, as you're receiving more data, you will have more questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol, for bringing that up. We talked about the work session and regular meeting minutes, call board meeting minutes. No comments on the minutes. Right.
Very well done, thank you.
We also received, or will receive next.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Ms. Vodka. It's been a little over a year being here, and I remember the journey of board meeting minutes
Yes.
on the front end, and so thank you, Ms. Vodka. I think as we're clear, I hope board members are seeing greater clarity in those minutes.
I did say very well done, I probably didn't say it loud enough, very well done, thank you.
Yes. Great. Noted. Financial reports, we didn't have a committee meeting, which we'll do next week, right? And we'll receive those reports.
We will receive those reports. Mr. Hamill's working very hard to close out fiscal year 18. And so we're hoping to have the final closeout of fiscal year 18. If we don't have it, there will at least be a draft of what fiscal year 18 will look like.
Thank you.
I'll ask another embarrassing question. Are we permanently shifting the meeting for the finance meeting? Right? Because we've talked about that, and I've lost track of whether this was a one-time.
It's a one-time only.
Okay.
Yes, we have had that. It's been an ongoing conversation.
Right. I was
Yes.
like, did we do it? I forgot.
Let's talk about it next week.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk about it the next week.
Okay, we have a number of policies, regulations, exhibits to be posted for public review for 4 weeks. The first one is policy JBCC, student assignment, which has been revised. Can you comment on this policy? Questions?
These all came out of our policy.
Last week.
Last week.
Or was it Monday?
This week.
It's not-
Our thing says none at this meeting, so I thought there were some that were supposed to be this week.
Oh, that was the, okay.
Say that again.
Well, Linda and I are looking at this version and. it
The
says
old
none at
packet,
this
because
meeting.
remember she said at our policy committee meeting, she was gonna have to go back and add them. So they, so,
But I don't remember any discussion in our policy, council meeting about any of these that we preclude them from.
Along with that is policy JBCCA, student assignment, middle school, high school revised, are both, related to each other. And as far as they seem to codify what has been in practice in our policies. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
And if the members were not at the policy committee meeting, you really need to read those policies.
Good. Definitely good. It's good to codify those things, especially the practices that we've been doing, that we care about. I think it makes good sense to codify those.
There might be some questions. So I strongly encourage you to read.
Great. Any questions about those at this point? We also have exhibit JBCCA E1, student assignment, middle school, high school revised, and regulation JBCCA R1, student assignment, middle school, high school revised. Those are all kind of going together, is that right? Any questions on this? We have policy JCDAB, student alcohol use revised. Any questions around that?
That was the one that was updated to.
Alcohol and drug.
Alcohol and drug use. So that was good.
We have policy BBC, board committees revised. Any questions around that?
pretty small change.
We have policy BH, board code of ethics review.
So if I may, we as a policy committee voted to go back to the state language for the board code of ethics. there wasn't a ton of discussion about it. Basically, it was just so confusing to some of us as board members and to the public, that hybrid model of infusing some of the board governance stuff with the board code of ethics. And so we decided to pull it out, go back to state language to keep it crystal clear. And Dr. Means and Dawn and I worked on a policy about board governance, I guess, or that's not even the right words. It escapes me. Anyway, it'll come before us for the next policy committee meeting. It'll bring some of that language that was discussed prior in a separate way for the committee to review. So anyway, we just went right back to the state language to keep it simple. And
Any questions, comments around policy BH? Okay. Moving on to items for consideration on the consent agenda. We have a number of field trips. Any questions around any of the field trips? Great. And again, on those, there are some that did a fantastic job of articulating how students who may not be able to come up with money to take. Some of those are big ticket field trips. And especially with those big ticket field trips, it's nice to see how they will address students that can't come up with the money to do it.
I also noticed that in schools, the teachers have contributed thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Like the DHL. Yes. That was really impressive.
that was a DC trip.
Yes, that's Mr. Chair, if I may, I think, again, last year, this time, we didn't have the level of detail about these trips. Upon arriving, it was a memorandum that said, we're going on a trip, and you're now receiving more information and data around itinerary, how much these cost. I would just point out that we're trying to also present this to you from a lens of equity, because if we want to make sure every child is able to go, you should know how much it costs as a governing board. And to your point, and I appreciate you raising this monthly, and what type of fundraising opportunities or scholarships or other things are available to ensure that every child can participate.
And and on Dr. Knox's point, I read that too, and I was both sort of in awe and also I didn't know quite what to think about it, because I don't want that to be necessarily an expectation of our teachers that they kick in thousands of dollars. I don't know what the right balance
There are
is.
some school systems that are so committed to equity that they will have some type of a line item that a building principal can communicate with the district to say, we have certain children in need. So I guess that I'll be more explicit in saying that that's, if we're going to talk equity and as one of our 6 components of priorities, I would just encourage the board to continue to think about those types of challenges.
I meant it as impressive from the perspective of the dedication of the teachers.
Yes. That's right. The next item is approve the use of fund balance for the purpose of LSGT innovation grants carryover funds from FY18.
Consent.
I actually would like to take this off the consent agenda.
You want that?
I think I would love a word from you, Dr. Mees, now, and I think it's good in our meeting next week to articulate the commitment and dedication that we have with regard to our LSGTs. Dr. Mees, can we say a minute?
Ms. Suggs and I were not aware of language that some local school governance teams were told that they could carry over their funds. When we were told and informed, we stepped back. We had to circle up and meet with our CFO to figure out how do we redistribute these funds. And we support our LSGTs. We want them to be as creative as possible for their local schools. And so we identified a couple different levels, not only schools who had carryover funds that were placed in fund balance last year. We're replenishing those funds, but there were also some schools that partially used their funds, but they didn't use it all. And so we've said to those schools, here's the rest of the funds that you did not use from fiscal year 18. So everyone has been made whole with this recommendation. So whatever funds you did not spend in fiscal year 18, we're providing that back. That it was never our intent to as an institution, as an organization, to take those funds away from the LSGTs. You'll hear from Mr. Hamill next week. Our fund balance is very healthy.
Yeah.
We did not need the LSGT funds to bolster our fund balance. Mr. Hamill and our team did a good job in creating a fund balance when the last fiscal year, just to make sure we're all aware, we were projecting a $3 million deficit. And so we're proud of the fact that we had a fund balance. We did not need the LSGT funds. I appreciate you taking it off consent, because we can make that statement again publicly. We want the LSGTs to have all their funds so they can be as creative as they need to meet the needs of their individual school communities.
So that brings a question to mind. The policy was, if I'm not mistaken, that they spent it that year, or it would come back into the district to the fund balance. Now, are we saying that we're not gonna have that policy and they can carry it over even though they don't have a plan for how they're gonna use that money?
It's usual and customary, Ms. Davis, for a grant, when you're provided a grant, that you use it within the fiscal year.
Right.
I think there were some challenges last year. The LSGTs weren't informed about these grants until February or March. That created a large challenge. And then also, candidly, there was a communication to some LSGTs saying that they could carry over the funds, but it was not communicated to all LSGTs. And so I think there was just, from a communication standpoint, we could have done a better job in that space. Some LSGTs were under the assumption they were able to carry over their funds. Some were not aware. So in the name of clarity, we're suggesting whatever funds were not used by all LSGTs, here it is. You had it back.
Yes, of course.
Since there was so much confusion about some people thinking they could and some, what does the actual charter say? What is the rule from charter? What is it written somewhere? What you can actually do with surplus funds?
So I appreciate Mr. Bobby taking this off the. So let me answer your question first. There is no rule that says what you do with surplus funds. It's usual and customary when you are given a grant, if you don't use it within the fiscal year, it goes in the fund balance of that organization. And so this year, for example, we've kind of given LSGTs the warning. You've been told at the beginning of the school year, here's your LSGT innovation grant dollars. You have to use it within the fiscal year. I was going to go one step further, Ms. Thornton, and say that under the charter, how those innovation funds are distributed is really left up to the school system. So there's some charter systems that the school district uses those funds. It never gets in the hands of an LSGT. And I think that's critical to point out, because we want the LSGTs to have those funds. We don't want to centralize the funds and use it, but there are some charter systems that's how they use the innovation funds. It never gets to an LSGT. And so those LSGTs never get a chance to sit around and develop a plan for their individual school. That's not how we believe this system should work. Hence, we're distributing those funds back and we're encouraging each LSGT to be creative.
Was this a grant because we were a charter system?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this an annual grant?
We hope so. The funding, Ms. Williams, for charter systems are always up for investigation and evaluation by the legislature.
But since we're in the next fiscal year and that budget has been passed, are there grant funding?
Absolutely. And those funds are at the disposal of the LSGTs right now.
So we've already received the grant for
Yes, ma'am.
18-19.
We've received we received funds for fiscal year 19. Yes.
And I was a little bit confused about the fund balance of approximately 600,000. Which does that refer to? What fund balance?
So at the end, and I think Mr. Hamill will get into this more next week with our financial report, but when we close our fiscal year 18, we would have underspent our entire budget for fiscal year 18 by approximately $600,000.
Now, does that include the 400,000 that was from the sale of the building?
Yes, ma'am.
So in essence, it was actually 200,000.
Yes.
So that's not in the, I keep asking this because I don't understand, if we sell a capital asset, it's not designated to a capital fund, it's just a general fund.
Actually, it is designated to a local capital fund. It's reserved out that way in the financial statements. But that is a designation that this board made more than a decade ago when they set up Fund 101. Now, if you
Yeah, but
decide
we're
as a
still
board,
counting
you
it as
decide as a
general.
board to take that money out of Fund 101 and redesignate it to Fund 100 for certain reasons, you have that authority to do that.
So what's 100?
100 general fund,
Okay, and 101 is,
the local capital projects fund.
and right now it's, the property, money.
It's any money we get from the sale of property or buildings that we used to own, that we have proceeds from.
So it's actually 101 and not 100. Is that what
Right,
you're saying?
but we combine the two funds because they're considered both local fund sources.
And the fund balance is just the bottom number on Fund 100?
And Fund 101 too,
And
correct.
101, 100, 101, okay. Thank you. The next item on the consent agenda is the approved bleacher replacement purchase for Bernie Harris Lyons and Coyle. And there's an update to this, right? So we received in our most recent email, a little bit different number,
Yes.
about a couple $1,000.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Okay. And then number 8 is approved professional development school district professor in residence recommendations for 2018, 2019.
I'd like to take that off.
Okay. Take that one off. Any questions or comments around,
Yes, ma'am.
take that off of consent agenda, yes.
Yeah, I've got a question on that. So the support for the professors, which is often but not only about 25%, is that release time from essentially what the university is paying? Is that like a course release?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I just think it's something that the community should be aware of because it's an extraordinary partnership with the university. And I think it bears having some public exposure. I'd love to have this.
I think UGA would appreciate that as well. I again, from an information standpoint, I don't believe that this was actually brought to the board. I went back in last year's board agendas. I don't recall you approving this, and so, and we'll go back and look again, but you should have.
Yeah.
But we wanted to bring it to you, A, because it's a large expenditure. B, we're proud of the fact that we've changed the process where it's more what will be the return on investment for our children with this partnership. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that one of the partnerships is with the Career Academy. So there's a professor in residence with the Career Academy working with the early childhood education students. And that was done purposely because this board has talked about trying to create more students going into the field of education, and in particular, creating a pool of teachers of color. Well, we're trying to create a grow your own model with working with a UGA professor that will motivate those young people at the Career Academy to get into that space. We provided an overview of these partnerships. It's also important to note that we have some partnerships outside of the School of Education or College of Education. So we have a partnership with the School of Social Work, which we're really excited about. And then we also have a partnership with Dr. Welch, who's looking at some very interesting components around discipline and attendance and the impact of those things. So it's not your typical professor in residence PDSD model. We've tried to look at this from a return on investment perspective. How is it impacting children? And
That's the bottom line. for me.
yes,
We're finally have that component in here that talks about how we impact children, because we've never had that in the past. That's for every time, so I'm really excited that we make that great leap now. We'll absolutely to evaluate that.
Who's the point person with UGA now since?
Dr. Burrow.
Is it Dr.
we don't have anyone, or I shouldn't say we. UGA has reopened that process. Janet Breslin was our liaison for the PDSD and UGA. They went through a search process this past spring, and the College of Education decided to reopen the search. So right now, Stacy Pritchard is serving in an interim space, and she works with our Office of Early Learning, so she knows us well, and she's been the conduit for us right now.
So there will be an additional personnel person on here when that's done.
No, ma'am. So
That's not
that
a
person,
financial commitment.
no, ma'am. That's not an additional, that person does not get a stipend or part of a PIR assignment for being our conduit or our administrative connection to UGA.
Is this the first, have we had folks at the district office before?
We have. In fact, we've had multiple people at the district office. In fact, I think there was, for many years, there was a PIR that was dedicated to the superintendent's office. And so that we felt that we needed to reallocate those funds to children in schools and not the administrative side of things. So Sonia Janice is working with Laura Ambrose from a district perspective because of the new adoption of social studies standards at the state level. We have some other district-wide folks, in particular the social workers, the social work PIRs, but that's a really important component that they'll be working with Dr. Myers on, along with Dr. Welch.
Great.
But they have a lens of not looking at the PIR perspective from a leadership perspective, where that's what we used to have. It's more about how are we impacting services to students.
Thank you. We'll take that
This
one
is
off.
where something-
Would you like someone from UGA, Ms. Davis,
Here's what we want.
at the meeting?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Great, it's a great idea. Number 9, approved literacy intervention curricular materials.
This is what.
This is the LLI. Any questions, comments, Brenda?
I think this was the one that had the What Works Clearinghouse information. Thank you. That was really helpful. I appreciate
thought you
getting
would
that
like
perspective.
When I read that, I'm like, John's got this. I'm not gonna keep reading.
Great.
Thank you.
Can we include that on our consent agenda?
What's that?
Great. And then we have, we will have personnel recommendations. We do have some.
Yes.
We have some. And these usually stand alone. Are they typically included in the consent agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. So this will stand alone, not included.
One question about
Yes.
those. We've had 2 people replacing Caroline Walker.
Are those that's the art situation. Is that a half and half? That was my question.
I'll find out. I'll have to get back to you on it. I'll find that.
Or maybe that person that's so good that you have to have 2 to replace them. That was my
In
other
the same
thought.
school.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
yeah.
Let's do.
I was assuming it was a half and half.
While we're on personnel, are we, all hired, full hires, looking good? Is there a?
We can keep them. We have 8 vacancies right now, 4 new,
Only 8?
but 4 new.
For new.
Since the start of school year?
Yes, ma'am.
Still under 8.
Yes, and that's candidly, I think that's been unique.
Right, some of it's been medical issues, we have.
But the fact that we've had at least 4 staff members within the first few weeks of school resign, that's That's different.
It is different. Hard work.
It
It
is,
is hard work.
it is hard work, absolutely. If there's nothing else from any members of the board, Dr. Means, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
You're able
But,
Yeah, you should. 'Cause we don't have anyone there. I love it. It's so sad.
Amazing.
It's gonna get better. It'll get better. Yes. It'll get better. Yes. It's just, it's in one place.
Yes.
That's what I feel is
Prior.
I didn't think I would know it off the top of my head, but I was.
And the next thing that, that's what I.